thanks for the introduction. People behind, can you hear me? The ones, okay, give me a thumbs up. Good. I actually thought, especially the people who sit behind, maybe the intent is not to hear me, but it's good to know that. On backbenchers, there's a famous saying: you might have not have actually scored great, but you've created the best memories for the backbenchers. So awesome. So with that, let's get started. Okay, we have an interesting topic, which is retrain, realign. There's a lot about it. It's fairly interesting. We in India love our data. We love our numbers, right? We love our statistics. And let me maybe sort of highlight a few of them right now. So number one, over the last 12 months, 60% of people have, there's been a 60% increase in the number of job posts, right? But recruiters are still finding it difficult to hire the right talent. That's number one. 33% of core job skills which exist today might change in the next 5 years, okay? And as per the World Economic Forum, we might have to reskill 1 billion people by 2030. That's 8 years from now. So the skills which people and companies need to succeed are accelerating at a great pace, or changing at a great pace. That's two. Third, 73% of CEOs actually said the number one reason which could be a disruptor to their business strategy is skill shortages. And lastly, there's been a 69% increase in job transitions. That's attritions are happening, as we speak. So that's critical, right? And we've seen, and the number one reason why people have actually left their jobs is for career and growth opportunities. Now, I've shared all these statistics, right? It might be overwhelming for a few. It might be like, is it doomsday? But it's not. In every challenge lies an opportunity for each and every one of us. And that's one of the reasons I have these three stalwarts or experts who will help us decode some of these challenges and probably find a solution of how they are thinking about the future of work, what are they doing in their respective organizations and in their industry, and probably share. And hopefully there are a few takeaways for each of us, right? So with that, let me get started. People who know me know I like to start on a light note always, and then sort of pick up the ante. So let me start by asking each of you, what is one skill you have developed over the last 12 months? Shailaja, as they say, ladies first. Let me start with you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. You should be asking the backbenchers again.
So I have, I would actually say learn two skills. So one, which is very kind of technology focused, wherein I went and got myself certified on Agile. So, which I'm very proud of. And my second skill, which, it's something that I decided that I wanted to do more of. And it's not really a skill or a training, but I actually told my husband that this year onwards, let me take over the management of the stock portfolio, right?
Awesome.
So I said, why not? So obviously he watches me very carefully like a hawk.
Yeah.
And I have taken it on that let me see if I can double,
awesome.
our net income.
Shailaja, I'm fairly sure you'll double it, right? Women are great with money, yeah. So I think your husband has done one good thing this year by giving you your portfolio to manage, giving him the portfolio to manage. Vivek, over to you. One skill.
Yeah, so I think last 12 months I've become better with facilitating meetings on MS Teams. I was pretty bad at it because, most of the people used to have their videos off and you didn't know who was doing what. But over time, I think that's one thing which I've improved on. So I at least know who are the people on the team who are in the meeting and who are kind of not there. And so that has been one tangible skill that I have learned.
Great. Thanks, Vivek. Nitin.
Last year, I started with my master's in counseling and clinical psychology. This is my 5th master. So I just gave my exam for the first year in June, and I need wishes to pass if I do pass, I'll claim that I'm learning. So let's see how it works.
Awesome. Great skills each of you guys have developed, right from making more money to knowing how to use Teams. So brilliant. So let's get to the first question, and let's get to the serious stuff, right? Vivek, let me start with you. You lead the HR function for a tech company. Everyone's been talking about the workforce, right? What's actually changed about the workforce today, right? From their preferences, career development goals, and how are you seeing these changes in your overall talent strategy, be it from hiring to learning, etc.? What are you doing?
So, talking about the IT products and the IT services space, I think one clear change is that because of the dearth of talent, and all of folks who are from the IT services would kind of vouch for it, we've had to hire people. So, typically, one has hired folks with the least experience, with just the adequate skill to be able to do the job. So, in general, if you were hiring somebody with 8 years experience earlier, you're now hiring people with lower experience and lower skill levels. That's one clear change, and I think true for almost all companies. Second is that you're working from home, right? And therefore, some of the ways in which learning used to happen by seeing others in action, that is increasingly hard. At the same time, your learning curve has to be very steep. So what do? How do you manage to upskill at a faster pace with this constraint? So that's another thing. Third is that the expectation of the workforce regarding learning has definitely gone up several notches in the last few months. They want that the learning should happen faster. And while all of us talk about preparing people to do the job, the fact is, talent which is coming from outside wants to be prepared for their careers, not necessarily about what you are immediately using on the job, but what will make them good professionals. And therefore, their expectation is not that you are going to train them only based on your needs, but based on what they desire. So these are the three things which I have seen. Now, what have we done about it? Obviously, we have tried to, and we are still in the process of doing that. We don't have it all nailed down, but we have tried to come out with a curriculum for different classes of our employees: the entry-level engineers, the expert engineers, the first-line managers, the senior leaders. We've tried to give them a learning curriculum which looks at it both from the point of view of the learner and his needs, and the and the employer. So that's something which we have done. Secondly, we have tried to make learning easier by making it more at their time, because it's very difficult now for people to take themselves out of their work and learn. So more focus on learning which they can undertake at their time. These are two things that we have done. I'll probably talk about other things later.
Thanks, Vivek. I think great points. I like the fact that you spoke about those three important points: be it upskilling, be it even your workforce, right? The people you're hiring from 8 years to sort of now you're looking at 4 years, etc. And of course, the interventions which you're doing in your organization. Nitin, similar question, right? And you're from the manufacturing domain. You're at Jindal. What's changed again for you, right, from in terms of the workforce, and what's the change you're seeing compared to, say, from a tech company to a manufacturing company, and what are some of the things you are doing to sort of build in terms of your learning interventions?
Sure. I think one thing is very common about no matter what company, what industry you are in, you're dealing with human beings, and that psychology is same around the world, no matter which country, which place you are from. So one important change that has happened, that people want to learn. As human beings, we want to learn always. We enjoy learning. When we learn, we feel good about it. But thanks to Corona, that people want to learn more, and they wanted to learn different things. And when they started learning, they started enjoying. Somebody is learning cooking or maybe some hobbies and things like that. And everybody wants to grow in their career. Everybody wants to make money, and not money, at least grow. And then they realize that it's easy. Nowadays, there's nothing called rocket science. You can learn anything in within 6 months, 1 year's time, and then with experience, be an expert on it. So that's a very big change that has happened with all human beings, that they want to learn and they feel happy about learning. I'm not saying that they have to learn their subject, what they like to learn.
Sure.
Second important thing is the focus on learning agility. So now, instead of giving somebody a fish, rather teach them to how to fetch a fish. So just teach them learning agility. If you have taught them how to learn and what will do to you, I think people get excited and they can shape up their career. They are career oriented. They want to enjoy the work. And it's just not that they are working for that salary. And third and most important thing is that organizations, when we make strategy, earlier we were thinking of business first or what leaders want first, but we have to see that our customers is employees who are learning. And when our customers are employees who are learning, what do they want? They want a good career advancement. They want nice environment. They want to be engaged. They want to enjoy. And all those things have to be part of your learning strategy. And that is, I think, main thing that matters. That when we're focusing on the career of people, they respond positively.
Got it. So great point. So I think the key takeaway to what Nitin was actually saying is that let employees learn beyond their scope of work. It's not only their scope of work. They want to learn a lot more. They want to acquire new skills, give them that opportunity. Let them be agile. That's the word he used, right? As well, not only the employees, but even the organizations need to be agile in helping them on that journey. So great points. Thanks, Nitin and Vivek, for sharing your perspective. Let me go to the next question, which is, the 3 R's of talent management, right? Retrain, and Realign have become core to our business success. And the skills first approach is playing a huge role in attaining these talent management goals. So Shailaja, this is for you. How are you aligning skill development with internal mobility and ultimately leading to higher retention?
So, I don't know what's the mix of the audience, if you're a lot of, kind of learning and development professionals. So, essentially, I'm operating with a very simple premise. In the technology space, and maybe it's true even for industrial, in the technology space, one of the things that I have always figured out is that there are almost, I would say 4 engines of growth. Yeah. If you look at those engines of growth, there are 2 which directly impact and there are 2 which are enablers. So the 2 which directly impact is, one is sales, yeah, which helps the business grow. The second engine of growth is fulfillment or talent acquisition. Because if you don't have people, what will you execute, right? And if you have people, then you will build them. And therefore, that's your first part of your revenue model. Now, the second part of the revenue model, which is basically the enablement, is where you have to prevent loss of revenue by retaining and training. Yeah? And that's the place where in technology, right? In technology, we already are seeing these shifts where obviously sales has a seat on the table. You are starting to see the talent acquisition of fulfillment is playing a very key role on the table. HR anywhere is there, and learning and development should now get onto the table. That's, almost, I would say the call to action. The second part, in terms of the shift I've started making with my learning and development leader, because there's a constant conversation that I've been doing, it is legacy, wherein you evaluate your performance on how many man-hours of training, how many programs I've run. Okay, and am I introducing new curriculum, right? Your KPIs have to now shift to speed of deployment. Okay, so if you're bringing in experienced hires, what is the speed with which you deploy them on roles? Yeah. And the second part, if you take the sub part of that, what percentage of people are you bringing in internally? So internal mobility, whether it is through job posting, sending people to US, moving people from core Java to full stack to cloud projects, at the end of the day, learning and development plays a crucial role. Why is it that delivery should be the only one who is tracked on that? At the end of the day, if you're learning and development, you should be able to get up and report against that KPI that X number of people that I have retrained are now deployed on emerging technology. If you are not tracking that, then you're doing 50% of the job. Right? We're basically saying that as learning professionals, I am doing training and therefore my job ends.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you're basically changing the KPIs, Shailaja,
I am
right?
saying that there's a shift in the KPIs.
Yeah.
And this also comes with a third variation, which is the realization that if you train somebody on core Java, it is not sufficient. So now you have Java, Python, variability of skills has increased. And to your point, the future is going to be more complex. And that's why the number of people in the market looking for jobs is huge. But if you have somebody who's multi-skilled, they will get jobs immediately. Now, that's the premise. That's exactly the premise with which we have to operate. And you will actually see that the core technology skills are going to be at the bottom end of the pyramid. The more niche skills are at the middle and the high end. Now, why doesn't L&D talk to sales, talk to delivery, understand upcoming projects, and forecast your learning requirements on the basis of 80% of your sales funnel? You need to know what's coming down the pipeline. Now, if having a seat at the table means you will have to get into the front and start having that conversation. You have to be passionate about making the business win.
Yeah, good points. So you Shailaja, you've talked about learning, not working in silos, working with sales, working with delivery, redeployment, changing of KPIs, changing the way they were actually measured, right, all throughout. Vivek, I'm coming back to you, and pretty much the same question, right, which is how are you sort of aligning skill development with internal mobility, and how are you sort of retaining your core talent?
Yeah. So I think it's a very big question. I'll try to answer it, with as few words as possible. A couple of things that we have done, and it is by no means complete. One is we have tried to break up our skills into, technology skills that we need for our work, and which are also the skills which any one of our engineers would want to have. So in technology, we've kind of broken it into what is required by Nugent and what will be required by the concerned engineer. And we've got a host of learning programs available there. In addition to that, of course, there is Nugent proprietary products and solutions. So that's an important part of the learning roadmap. And then, of course, there are behavioral skills that we need for different kinds of roles. Now, what we've tried to do is, the basic problem in mobility or in retention is that how do you really tag people with the right skills? How do you say that this person is skilled in these areas, and therefore when opportunities come internally, he should get some kind of an advantage in those skills, or he should be considered for those skills. So we have tried to build a program of internal certification. So for example, if there are projects that require React, advanced React skills, we will give advantage internally. We will when there is an internal job opportunity, we will give advantage to people who have a certification in that at an advanced level, right? So we make the skill a requirement for applying to specific roles, or we are trying to do that more and more. That's one. Second is, even when it comes to internal Nugent specific skills, we have tried to come out with certifications at an intermediate, expert, advanced level, so that we know what is the level of skill and how do we therefore make use of that talent internally. So that's something that we have tried to do. Now, retention is another area. Retention, we realized based on feedback from some of the people who were leaving us, that if your focus of skilling is very narrow, if it is only defined, or if it is only based on what you need as an employer, people sometimes will leave saying that, okay, proprietary skills, it's okay for you, it's not okay for me. I want to also get exposure. I also want to learn new age skills so that I am a better professional. Now, of course, the risk is that if you give that opportunity, a person may take that skill and leave. But if you don't, even then he'll leave, right? So I think a slight reorientation in our approach of looking at learning and skilling, both from the point of view of the employee and the employer, and tagging skills so that it's easy to identify who should get a preference when it comes to mobility internally, as well as it also has an impact on retention. These are the areas we are working on. It's still a work in progress, because the half life of skills is very low. New skills keep coming in. You have to be in touch with the market. You have to be in touch internally, like Shailaja said. You have to be in touch with your sales teams to see what skills are going to be required on the job, and you need to keep changing as you move ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. I think great points. You touched upon the fact that yes, there are technical skills, and within those skills, you break them up, right? Every human being has multiple skills. Some are explicit, which he or she talks about. Some are inferred, right? And then you sort of break that down. You talked about the fact that behavioral skills is what you're doing, and also the fact that I think human resources today is much larger. I think post-pandemic, they said, right, I think you bring the human in the human resources right now. So which is, you care beyond their work. You check on what are they doing outside of work, check on their lives, check on their mental health, check on their well-being. Yeah, you've got to do things as getting vaccinations done for these people and their families. So a lot more, and I think it's great points which you've talked about. I think to the other point where you said, if you train people, they might leave. I think there's a famous quote, I think, which Richard Branson has said. I might not know the exact quote, but what he says is, teach people so that they could leave, but treat people so well that they might not leave, right? So it's, if you teach and treat people well, trust me, they might not leave. So the last part of my question, which is, this one is for you, Nitin. We're seeing over the last 18 months, and I'm sure they can be, if I ask anyone in the room to put up their hands, I think everyone has seen attrition happening. It's been unprecedented ever in probably the history. We call it the great reshuffle or the great resignation. People are leaving jobs. So the question, Nitin, I have for you is, in what ways are organizations changing their culture to retain employees, encourage learning, and sort of career development or redeployment?
Sure. I think one of the most important thing that I'm seeing going to these conferences, listening to a lot of leaders, that learning is changed. It is not a choice, it is a compliance. So for example, how many people here in their performance appraisal, learning is compulsory? Okay, look, it's not long when all of you will raise this hand probably by next year, that if you are not learning, then your KPI is not being met. 15%, 20% is compulsory. Because for example, if there's a function who bought in SAP or some other digitalization tool, and some of the employees says that we are not interested in doing this training, or we are not interested in learning this skill, it's not possible to survive the business like that. So you would have to make learning compulsory. It's a compliance, not a choice. Number one. Number two, one of my ex-bosses here, Mr. Sabi Kidwai, my guru, and he always used to say that there's never a bad student, there's always a bad teacher. And same way, there's never a bad employee, there's always a bad manager. And why? Because when we are saying that you have to go beyond, discuss about their career, discuss about their learning, discuss where they fit well, there's so many jobs that are there in the company, but people are not given an opportunity to try for that. They're not given an opportunity to change their department. So many high potentials are stuck up in a job because their boss is not leaving them to let go and try something else. So the managers have to change, and organization is forcing them to change. Not only through learning, also through a lot of compliances. Cross-functional training or inter-functional cross-skilling is becoming a necessity. Succession dashboards are becoming a necessity. Probably 10 years, it was maybe a new thing when VPs or the general managers have to present a talent dashboard. Now it is a compulsory thing. If your VPs are not presenting a dashboard, there's a problem. If top 6 strategies, one is not learning and digitalization, there's a problem. Okay. Third, the most important thing. Very early in my career, I learned an employee engagement model by Blessing White, which simply said that when an individual's goal matches the organizational goal, then the person performs to the highest potential that they are capable of. And that is something that we have to be focused on, their careers. Trust me, most of the employees do not care what you want from them. They care what they want from you. And if they're getting what they want, then they will put their heart and soul into it. And it is very necessary that we have to understand that. Otherwise, they will leave you, they'll become a gig worker, they'll be sitting on a mountain, sending pictures to your team, and rest would also leave.
Thanks, Nitin. The great points. I love the succession dashboard. I don't, maybe that's something which probably we can always take away in terms of us doing it as well. And of course, the fact that you said the onus now is also on managers. Shailaja, again, I know we're sort of pretty much on time and we can take some questions, but more on the culture. I want to know, right? How are you creating that culture? You're part of the CXO C-suite in your organization. How are you creating this culture in your organization to enable learning at scale?
So, couple of things. I would, for us, learning is, as I said, it's the fourth pillar. It's really, really super critical. So the first part is shifting the conversation from, hey, you have to go, you have to attend the training, you have to do whatever. One of the things that at the business head, delivery head, and the next level leadership, what we are actually doing is asking, number one, managers to go out and have connects with people. And we're tracking that. And as a part of that, one of the mandates this year has been shift the conversation from, okay, do you want a better title? Do you want better compensation? Let me, figure that out to retain, to sit down this year and talk to them about career. And what is it going to take to engage and excite them? So that's number
getting
one.
your managers to do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've actually personally at some point in time, I was so frustrated with the kind of conversations that were happening that I actually created the script. And I called everybody and I kind of tediously, told them that this is how you should run through the script. These are the Q&A that you should anticipate. So that's one. The second part of it is your employees land up being in 3 groups. So there's a group 1, which is a legacy group, where it is really important. They want to stay, but they're kind of stuck. And in that legacy group, you have to help them understand what is the shift in skills and how can they grow, right? The second group, which is there, which is somewhere in between, they want to do something, they are hungry, but need more direction. And you need to give them a slight nudge and they will take a lot more forward action. Then you have the third group, which is much younger. They have a point of view. They will tell you. So
You're talking
each
about
one
the
of
Gen
them,
Zs.
Yes, they will come and say, I want to be an entrepreneur in 2 years' time. I want to build my own app. I want to take a product to the thing. How can I get there? So the fact that with each group, the realization is, kind of the older group, you may have a longer tenure. The middle group you can extend. The younger group is probably operating with in a 3-year span. The more time we get with them is fantastic.
Yeah.
So the engagement model with each group has to be different, and the what's in it with for me has to change.
Yeah, the school bell has rung, Shailaja, right?
Yeah, sorry. One last bit that I'm actually I want to add is, in this entire process, let people write their own job description. So we actually ask them what you would like your job description to look like,
That's
and
great.
choose and go after it. So we're enabling that
Great.
in terms of choose the role, choose the function you want to grow
Yeah.
in, and how do we get you there.
I liked again what you said, which is you do not have one consistent learning mechanism for everyone. There is a learning program curated for every subgroup in your organization, be it, basis, their years of experience, etc. And accordingly, you're tailoring a curriculum for them. We'll take some questions from the audience. If anyone wants to ask this panel any questions, please raise up your hand. Maybe introduce yourself and the company you're working for. Yeah, and if you have a specific question to any one of them, just one question. That's the MC telling me, not my.
Yeah,
Just
good
one
afternoon,
question.
everyone, and thanks for this interviewing session, panel members. My name is Sandeep Chaudhary, and I represent Hashton by Deloitte. My question to you is that in our company, 40% of the workforce is millennials. They are digital savvy, they are very ambitious, they are well-networked learners, and they are learning at a very fast pace. So how do learning and development pace up with their pace? Any suggestions that you have?
Vivek, you want to take that up?
Yeah. So you're right. In fact, the first thing you should do is, I think, ask them about what are their learning priorities and how can learning and development assist them in that. Because in many occasions, what we've seen is they are ahead of the curve, and the organization is catching up. So one can institutionalize that by going to them and asking them. We have, in fact, done that at Newgen, because we got feedback that our learning was very narrowly focused on what was of value to us, and we have changed it by introducing some of the skills, new age skills, which we may not use immediately inside, but which nonetheless are important for our millennial employee group. So I think that's one thing which we should do. Second, of course, is to make it very easy for them to learn. And there, I think a lot of progress has happened. You've got programs available, e-learning platforms that make learning so much more easy. So I think those should be leveraged. So I think these would be the two things I would say.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think we are pretty much on
Santosh, can
time.
can I just
I can give you a lot of time, Shailaja.
I'll just give
It's-
you
it's-
30 second.
Yes.
See, I think that we have to break out of, at least, and I did this with a lot of, I'm also legacy. So, we have to break out of the mindset that learning happens only through training, right? So we have an entire hypo generation called Incido Zealots. And it is mandated that business leaders on our strategic initiatives, we have to staff at least some of them to work with us, right? So provide learning opportunities where you push them to get staffed on strategic projects. They learn from leaders and mentors, and they also do a lot of the grunge work. And in many cases, they're faster at problem solving than us. Okay, so provide that opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think
Yeah.
it's very helpful.
Thank you.